All right, guys, we are live, and today I am super psyched. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to jump in because I want to announce I have a very special guest, a woman that has been helping me in my personal life, in my career, and she has made, without even knowing it, so many things that I've done this year possible just because of the tools she shared in her latest books, but also in her previous books, which I read as well. So today I have with me best-selling author Nancy Nancy Levin. So here's an example of how it goes with the ego, guys. And I like to out myself. I was so nervous to interview Nancy because I'm idealizing her that I even mess up her name. So I want you to be able to be authentic to yourself. So find those moments, the moment of what I'm just sharing now. And I do this live all the time. When I catch myself, I out it. Out yourself when you catch those moments. Those moments are powerful moments to reclaim your truth, reclaim your authenticity, catch your ego going on around and sending you in the opposite direction and telling you everything that you're doing wrong, and reclaim who you are. So that was but Nancy Levin is a master coach, and she's the best-selling author of several books, including the latest, which is Setting Boundaries Will Set You Free. Formerly the event director at Hay House for over a decade, Nancy is the creator of Levin Life Coach Academy and Destination Me, offering in-depth coaching and training programs designed to support students and clients to make themselves a priority by setting boundaries that stick. So I'm welcoming Nancy Levin, my new friend. Nancy, so psyched, and how fucked up is that I messed up your name live.
I'm so happy to see you.
It's just, but I love to out it because I think I have a lot of my clients that are starting in the coaching industry, and you train a lot of younger in the career, coaches.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to look at somebody for me like you that is well established and that I read your books years ago when I didn't even know whether or not I was going to be done your courses, and get really excited to the point of stepping in and wanting everything to be perfect in a very controlling way, and allowing the part of our ego to show up and take us away from the real purpose that I am having you here today, which is nothing to do with me and all to do with your work and what I believe you could do to the women that are in my community, and how powerful your tools and your practices and your messages. So thank you so much for being here today and for having this conversation on boundaries, because I believe it is now more important than ever.
I could not agree more.
I see you were doing something for the holidays, actually, and I was at the hospital last week when this happened. But I noticed you were doing this workshop, right? Because boundaries come up a lot during the holidays.
Yes, I did a workshop last week about healthy boundaries for the holidays. And I think boundaries come up a lot during the holidays on a regular year. And I think that right now during the pandemic, they're coming up even more and in different ways. And we're really having to look at and be discerning about what is true for us, regardless of what's true for others.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I believe that one of the things that to me I resonated the most with your book is why we create this pyramid of the kind of boundaries we set, right? Because not all boundaries are made equal. They're like little things that we can endure, and then there are those things that make us completely crazy, and a lot of them have to do with family, I think.
Yes, it's true. So I think, just so that we're on the same page here and everybody watching and listening, I would like to just take a moment to define boundaries from my framework. So, because what I find is if we asked everybody watching to share what they think a boundary is, I guarantee that what they think it is at the beginning of our conversation and what they think it is at the end of the conversation will be very different. So most people relate to boundaries as being very restrictive, very confining, very depriving, constrictive, contracting. And I want to support everyone in experiencing boundaries as expansive. The boundaries really are the way in which we are carefully choosing and consciously curating the content of our life. And so I define boundaries as the limits that we set around what we will or will not do, will or will not tolerate, and will or will not accept. And my boundaries are very personal to me. So we each have our own boundaries that are personal. And as a real foundation for the conversation, I want to go right in with starting to bust some myths. Because one of the biggest myths going about boundaries is that other people cross our boundaries. We hear this all the time. I hear this from my clients all the time. I set a boundary, but they keep crossing it. And the truth is, first and foremost, my boundaries are between me and me, even if they involve another person. If my boundaries are being crossed, I am the one crossing my own boundaries. It's no one else's job to uphold or respect or honor or maintain my boundary. And this really is a game changer.
Totally. I think it's your responsibility to take care of your own boundaries. And we hear that all the time about allowing it. It's us allowing it. But I think you're right, because the first thing that I think about when I hear the word boundaries, I feel constriction, right? I feel like a fence.
Right.
This is the fence, and you stay there, and almost this idea that someone who puts on these boundaries is someone who's not nice or is not kind.
That's right.
I think that this approach of being expansive, in the sense of it's not being kind to someone else, is starting to be kind to ourselves.
Exactly. So, what it begins to do is move us out of victim and blame into responsibility and empowerment. And so that we are able to step into that space where we're really learning how to honor and take good care of ourselves. And so as we begin to look at this, to understand that a boundary is not wanting anyone else to change. A boundary is not telling someone else to do something differently. A boundary is not expecting someone's behavior to change. A boundary is simply knowing what's okay and not okay for me, and what I'm going to do to take care of myself in the process. And so in order to even be able to do that, we have to really turn the ship around on the ways in which we consider ourselves. Because what I find, especially for anyone here who identifies as a people pleaser, a peacekeeper, a conflict avoider, someone who doesn't want to rock the boat, it's a really big shift to reorient to ourselves. So most of us are sort of in the mindset of looking outward at what do they need? What do they think? What do they want? What do they feel? And the invitation here is to really turn that antenna around to ourselves, so to consider, what do I think? What do I need? What do I want? What do I feel? And start here first. And so, I often share this metaphor that so many of my clients will tell me it's not only a metaphor, it's real, and it's, we're so busy making sure that we set the table with the fine lace cloth and the fine china and the fine silver and the crystal and the big juicy steak or the big juicy tofu, and make sure that everyone has their seat at the table. And then we stand in the kitchen in the dark, eating the scraps and crumbs over the sink. And so,
and then resentful because they are there eating at the table.
That's exactly right. And what we have to remember is resentment rising is a telltale sign that a boundary needs to be put into place. And in order to put the boundaries in place, we have to be willing to consider ourselves. So it's really like a 3-tier approach. First, are you willing to give yourself permission to consider your own needs at least as much as you're considering the needs of everyone else? Just at least as much.
Mhm.
And then, are you willing to give yourself permission to consider your needs even more than you're considering the needs of everyone else? And then, to me, the real boundary ninja move is, are you willing to give yourself permission to consider your needs first before you consider the needs of anyone else? Now, just keep breathing, because anyone watching who thinks you heard me say, don't consider anyone else, I didn't say that. I simply said, give yourself the same consideration that you're giving everyone else, and then start to consider yourself more and first, so that you're operating from what's most true for you instead of from the place of codependency, which is really about wanting someone else to regulate you emotionally. So that's when we're stuck in that loop in our head of, what do I need to do or say to make everything be okay? We want to be able to extract ourselves from that loop, which is going to bring us back to the present moment, bring us back to authenticity, bring us back to our own truth, so that we can consider what we need and begin meeting our own needs first.
That's really powerful. How would you say, though, how do we do that when the boundaries that we need to set are with our children? There's something that keeps coming up in all my in the conversation with all my clients, and in my life as well. How do you handle that, right? How do you manage?
Right. So there's different pieces. And when we're talking about little kids, we have to realize, okay, we have a responsibility. There is an obligation.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a difference between disciplining a child and having our own boundaries around what we need. And what I see is that what happens with parents especially is they've compromised their own needs. They've sacrificed their own needs into collapse. And then, the whole conversation about mom guilt, for example, is really,
it's real.
It's real, but it's also the way in which moms are sacrificing their own needs for the sake of others. It's self-abandonment. So in this context, whether it's mom guilt or whether it's guilt for in some way doing something for me, guilt in this context is actually an indicator that you're on the right track. Guilt is a signal that you're taking care of and honoring yourself. So it's not an either or. It's always a both and. It's not I take care of myself and disregard or ignore everyone else. It's I take care of myself so I can be of greater service from a place of genuine generosity, as opposed to obligation.
Yeah, because I think the challenge there comes because sometimes, especially when you have children already, if you're trying to have a career, your me time becomes your career time. It's not really necessarily your me time. Doesn't feed you, doesn't nurture you in the same way that self-care does.
That's right.
I would like to introduce that conversation of needing to bring ourselves into the equation. It's so important to set that boundaries, not in the sense of not being there anymore for your child, but to have a certain time that is just yours. And
exactly.
This in there.
Exactly. And so whether, and obviously if it's a little child that needs, to be watched, making sure that there is someone else, handling that so that you really can disconnect and you really can take the time, even if it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but not to be asking permission for it, to instead be making the announcement of it. So letting your partner or letting, your parent or letting whoever is the other caretaker of the child, letting another child, know, hey, I'm going to go be in here for 30 minutes. I'll come out when I'm ready. I trust you to handle whatever needs to be handled. Being able to set something up for yourself like that. Or doing it, as many people I know doing it before the kids get up or after the kids go to sleep. But part of that, again, is you being willing to make the commitment to yourself around your own time. Because if you don't treat yourself like your most sacred client, you're going to keep deferring that time that you've set aside for you.
Absolutely. I heard something recently from someone. I don't remember which book. I think it's the guy from the Big Leap or something. But he says something about commitment, that it's not just about commitment, it's about recommitting over and over again.
That's right.
At the beginning, we get so excited about we commit to something, say, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to have this half an hour before the kids get up. And then later we fall off track, and that suddenly becomes I failed, then it's never going to happen again. But there's so much power in actually recommitting to ourselves. It's like the declaration is not just to do it once or to try to do it, is to keep trying until we find something that works.
Right. And, so this is really the concept of knowing our non-negotiables and really getting clear on how I'm willing to show up to take care of myself. And so what begins to happen is, to the point you were making, what can you put into place so that you stay committed and you don't actually give yourself the choice every day? In other words, my most sacred ritual is that when I go to sleep at night, I put my phone into airplane mode. I wake up in the morning, there are no notifications on my phone. I go right to my meditation cushion. Then I make my coffee, then I sit with my journal, and then when I'm ready, I put my Wi-Fi back on my phone. I don't get up in the morning and think to myself, do I feel like meditating today? Do I want to meditate? Am I going to meditate? I simply have created a scenario for myself where it's just what I do. It's what happens upon waking.
It's like a personal policy.
Exactly. It's my non-negotiable. My non-negotiable is the first thing I'm going to do. I'm a morning person. I'm going to give the very best part of my day to me before I let the world in. I
love that. Guys, if you're listening to this, I love that. I am going to do the airplane mode thing.
I will tell you, it is a game changer for me. Complete life changer. To wake up and have no notifications, because we all know what it's like to wake up. And if we go to our technology right away, the world is needing us. And the world is seductive, and social media is seductive, and email and all the things. And so I love that I make a conscious choice when I'm ready to engage.
I think that's really awesome to especially hear from somebody who's successful, who has several books out, who has a very, very busy career, to know that you're prioritizing yourself.
Yeah.
Because I think it's so easy to get caught in, let me see how that sales is going, right? Especially in the coaching industry. Let me see how many people signed up. Let me see. There's this, pull to that you, even if you have confidence in yourself, it's so easy to be pulled in the idea that however something that is out there is doing, it's going to compromise or decide what your day gets to look like or how you feel about yourself. And
to that point, this is a way to begin extracting ourselves away from the way we are currently determining our value and our worth. So if you're determining or gauging your worth by what you produce, by what you do, by what you achieve, by how much you make, by how many likes you have on social media, how many followers, whatever it is, that is a very precarious proposition. You're putting your worthiness in someone else's wagon. You're letting someone else be the determiner of your worth. And so the invitation here is to really come back to the knowing that our worth and our value is intrinsic in who we are. It's not something we have to earn or prove.
Yeah. I mean, we hear that all the time. How come whenever we hear it, I mean, I hear it, it feels like I hear it for the first time, you know? It's like, why don't I always remember it? You know, it's such a constant need for reminder for me. There's still this part that I get center, I meditate, I feel very present to the fact that my worth is my birthright. And then, you know, it takes over, feeling like it's coming almost from nowhere that, okay, now I have to prove this needs to go well. This needs to go well.
And we want things to go well, but we want to actually disconnect it
from our worth
and our value. Totally. So that it's not the determiner of our worth and our value.
I was thinking of if you would ever think of this as almost setting a boundary with our ego, you know, in a way of like setting. But I have such a busy ego that talks all the time.
Sure, we all do.
Well, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I have to like really set a boundary where there's certain things or certain days that my boundary is I'm not listening to, you know, the inner dialogue at this time.
Well, I often will say,
refusing to.
Right. I often will say that, you know, when the inner critic comes and the negative voice comes in, that I will say, you know, oh, there you are. I've been expecting you. I'm turning your volume down now. We're not doing this today. You know, some way.
To me, it feels like setting a boundary with that part of ourselves.
Exactly. But we have to really be willing to. And I don't want it to be about bypassing. I think it's about honoring and acknowledging the voice and making a conscious decision not to go down the rabbit hole. You know, I used to be someone who woke up every single morning, especially when I was in my position at Hay House. I woke up every single morning and the first thought in my head was, what do I need to worry about today? That was the first thought. What do I need to worry about today? Which ultimately was other referenced. You know, who do I need to worry about? And what do I need to do for them? And a big shift occurred when instead of allowing that to be the first thought in my day, to consciously replace it with two questions. One, what is the most self-loving action I can take today? And what is the most self-honoring choice I can make today? And I do that in the morning before my eyes are even open. The minute my brain comes online, I ask myself these two questions, because then what I'm doing is I'm orienting toward me instead of the outside world. And I'm checking in with, what do I need today? How can I best take care of myself today? Is there a conversation I need to have? Is there something I need or something I want or something I desire in terms of an action or a choice that's going to really serve me? How can I give to myself instead of thinking that it's about waiting or expecting anyone else to do for me?
I love how everything is centered on the self, on the higher self, in a way that is completely independent from outside and other sources. Because I feel the biggest challenge for us women especially is to find things that fill us up that are nothing to do with external gratification, approval, and just with the pure intention of honoring who we are. And it's such a struggle. It's such a struggle because when you've done it all your life, you know, it's just rewiring your brain to begin to constantly observe where you are getting attached to things, where you are trying to please someone, observe it, bring it to the light, and then choosing it again and making choices that actually honor us. It's really a life commitment.
Right. And so there's, you know, two things I see time and time again around this. One is, you know, we don't really take good care of ourselves because if I'm doing something in private that no one else sees, there's no validation involved. So if we're so tied into external validation and approval and applause and getting all the gold stars, we don't see the value in doing something just for ourselves that no one else will see. So we have to really learn how to self-validate. That's one piece. The other piece is I generally hear a question at this point about, well, isn't all of this selfish? And I'm the first one to say that I am on a bandwagon to reclaim selfishness. We have expended so much energy disowning selfish, pushing selfish away. And what's happened in turn is that we pride ourselves on being selfless. And in being selfless, we disappear. We vanish. So it's about integrating that healthy selfishness where I am stepping into center stage of my own life. And I really look at selfish and self-care and self-love as three sisters whose job it is to support us in honoring ourselves.
That's amazing. I mean, I'm all down with the selfishness. Actually, one of the things I always believe and always say that knowing how to receive, being able to center on ourselves is an act of generosity, because I think it makes us better mother, better partners, better leaders. It actually allows us to give from a place of freedom rather than from a place of feeling the need to prove our worth. But I do want to ask you, in reclaiming your value, what you said before, we need to learn how to reclaim our value by ourselves. How do you do that? How do we reclaim? How do we wake up and decide, right? We decide that we want to reclaim our value. How would we go about that?
Literally checking in about what do I need right now? And how can I fill that need? How can I give myself what I need, what I'm looking for outside? Everything we're seeking externally needs to be resolved internally first. So what is it that I need right now? What is it that I want to feel right now? What can support me in feeling that way? And to stay connected. And again, stay connected, small, micro actions, but really understanding, so I have what I refer to as my transformation equation. Change equals vision plus choice plus action. So if we want to make a change, we have to have a clarity of vision, where we want to go, where we want to be. We have to be willing to make a different choice and take a different action. So I look at choice as, our present moment choices are what predict our future. If we look at where we are right now in our lives, each one of us, every choice we've made, every decision, every action has brought us where we are right now. If we don't do something different, our future will arrive looking very much like our past or our present. And even if our present is great, there is still room for growth and expansion. So our present moment choices are what predict our future. Our present moment choices are the crystal ball. We want to go to psychics and see what does our future hold. We have far more power over our future than we are willing to step into, because it begins with the choices I make. Every choice I make serves or sabotages my vision. Bottom line, every choice, every action serves or sabotages. So we want to really be conscious of the choices that we're making.
That's powerful. I'm going to be thinking about my choices over the next couple of days. Now, you mentioned our thoughts, which influence our choices. So our thoughts, it's what's determining what we are thinking in this moment, how we are handling what we're choosing to believe in. It's really to determine what our future looks like.
Right.
I really, there's something you would like to share with the audience, one thing that you would like to leave them, like the piece of content that most connects to what you're doing right now, or for them to know where they can find more of you. Is there something beside, like, Casey's gonna share here a link where they can get your update operating manual. Can you tell us a little bit about this? Because it's a wonderful free offering that Nancy's sharing with the audience today.
Sure, and it actually will take you through what I was just mentioning about the transformation equation. It really brings in these elements of how you can make sustainable, lasting change in your own life. You know, I look at boundaries as excuse me, as especially if we're sharing our boundaries with someone else, I look at it as the way that we're giving people a page of our operating manual. We're giving them a piece of our puzzle. We're letting them know about what's true for us. And so this freebie is really helping to orient you toward finding what's true for you.
That's awesome. And you also, guys, should check out her book, Setting Boundaries Will Set You Free, which I hope we can put a link to our website. You have like a whole section about the book.
I'll just mention, in case anyone wants to know, and I know that you might be interested in this too.
Yeah.
So the paperback of Setting Boundaries Will Set You Free is coming out next month. And Casey, maybe you can pop this in here. If you put, instead of that link, but put in nancylevin.com/new book. If you order the paperback,
pre-order it, right?
What was that?
You can pre-order it.
You can pre-order the paperback, and as a gift to you, I'm going to send you a video replay of the launch event I did with Gabby Bernstein in New York in January. So we did a book launch together, me and Gabby, in January, and the replay of that launch event is available on this link. The paperback. Later. What was that?
I know I'm saying to everybody that they should take advantage, because I actually watched that video and it's awesome. There's like so much chemistry between you two.
It's gold. It truly is gold. And I've been, we did it. I haven't made the replay available in full. I know Gabby has it in her membership, but I haven't really made the video very available. And so I thought this was the perfect timing with the paperback coming out to make the video available.
Yay. And also the audiobook is awesome because she is an incredible poet as well, and a really good reader and performer. So you guys check out that as well.
Thank you.
I'll be sending you all through my email list all links to this stuff so that you can check it out and get into Nancy's world. And hopefully she'll be able to serve you and help you as much as she's been helping me throughout this time. This has been such a heavy year.
I know.
And, really boundaries in the form of expansion of self, as you are describing them, have been so important. Just to really give back power and give back presence to what I wanted in my life, what I needed in my life, has really allowed me to thrive rather than survive throughout this year. And I know that every woman that is out there right now that feels that's not possible, I promise you it's possible. It's different to wake up at 5 a.m. to beat yourself because you gotta work out or do something, that to do it because you're moved by this intention to honor yourself and your need. There's a whole other energy, there's a whole other process to it. And if you go through her book, I know you will get it in a way, maybe even more than I did. So thank you so much, Nancy, for joining us today.
Thank you.
And yeah, guys, check it out. Love y'all. Bye-bye.